Cassandra Nova, the evil sister of Professor X, might just be the villain of the week in the 7th episode, and I'm willing to bet a lot of money on this because of the evidence I collected while researching for this video, just like I did last week. So yeah, last week I predicted a few things, like Remy would finally be resurrected by Apocalypse and turn into a horseman, and that we'd see the beginning of Onslaught's eventual arrival from Charles's mind, which holds part of Magneto, and also that the villain of the week for episode 6 would be Danger, the physical manifestation of the Danger Room's AI. While all of these came true, things were easy to figure out, especially looking at the title for the episode, which is Danger.EXE. And now it's time for predictions for episode 7, which is titled Strange Land, Strange Heart. Now, it's obvious that a major portion of the 7th episode will take place in the Savage Lands, the lush green region in the middle of the icy Antarctica. But the thing is, deciphering the exact story details is a bit tricky, but I think I figured it out. So, without further ado, let's dive straight into the predictions for X-Men 97 Season 2, Episode 7. Cassandra Nova might be the new villain of the week. See, as I mentioned earlier, the 7th episode is titled Strange Land, Savage Heart, which is clearly a reference to the Savage Land, which is basically a micro-ecosystem in the middle of Antarctica, one that has lush greens and prehistoric animals like dinosaurs, ancient and primitive species of men, as well as a huge supply of vibranium, and for a while, the master of magnetism, Magneto, made this place his home. It was revealed in X-Men number 62, after his apparent death, that Magneto had escaped to the Savage Land, where he genetically altered the Savage Land natives into what I can best describe as Savage Land mutates. These guys then started worshipping Magneto and hailed him as the creator. He would go on to use them to build a device that would allow him to channel energy. However, I don't think Magneto could be brought back this soon in X-Men 97, which is where Cassandra Nova comes in, who you might remember from Deadpool and Wolverine. See, we learn at the end of the 6th episode that the good professor has formed the X-Corp, a body that would help mutants across the globe, and soon X-Corp would open its branches in various countries. In addition to this, Marvel.com's reading list for X-Men 97 Season 2 lists the 114th issue of the New York comic book, and this is the issue where Cassandra Nova made her first ever appearance. You see, Nova is basically a Mummudrai, or the anti-self. According to the Shi'ar, these creatures are the equal but opposite spirit of a person. But before being born, each individual must fight and defeat their Mummudrai, and the fight happens in the womb itself. However, because Charles was such a powerful psychic, his anti-self was also powerful, and his Mummudrai managed to create a physical form for itself and basically became Charles' twin sister. But Charles recognized the evil presence and tried to kill his fetus sister, and although she fought back, she was barely a match for fetus Charles. In the end, this twin was stillborn, and they discarded her, but she ultimately found her way to the sewers in the form of a growing mass of cells, where she clung to one of the sewer walls and waited for decades to have a complete body. And once she did, she came to exact her revenge on her twin brother. And in New X-Men issue number 114, she tries to take over Charles's mind through Cerebra, the mutant tracking device created after the destruction of Cerebro. That's not all. In X-Men 97 Season 1, Bastion was the one who sent the Sentinels to Genosha, killing all those mutants. But in the comics, more specifically in this 114th issue, it was Cassandra Nova who sent the Sentinels to Genosha, becoming one of the biggest mass murderers in the history of Marvel Comics. I think in this 7th episode, Cassandra Nova might be found in the Savage Land, maybe ruling over the Savage Land denizens and enslaving them, much like Magneto did in another story. I mean, she was deprived of her role in Season 1, so it would only make sense that they bring her back in Season 2, and give her some of the respect she deserves. But that's just me. I'd love to know what you think about it.
The name's Polaris. On behalf of X-Factor and the U.S. Defense Department, I order you to stand down.
Polaris might just become pestilent. Although Polaris might seem like she's on the side of the X-Men, I mean, she really is, but the thing is, Polaris, just like her dad, has always switched sides between good and evil. And you can't really blame her for that, because her upbringing wasn't a perfect one, especially because of an absentee father. In fact, in one story, she ends up going to the dark side, and she goes in pretty deep. So in X-Men Volume 2, issues 183 through 187, which is also known as the Blood of Apocalypse arc, the droop-like alien creature called DAP gets a hold of Lorna and flies away along with her, only to drop her into the Sphinx of En-Saba-Nur. We don't know about the allegiances of this creature, but the end result was that Lorna was now the prisoner of En-Saba-Nur. Now, this guy was basically looking for a fourth horseman and Polaris was a fine candidate for becoming a horseman. Apocalypse already had Shiro Yoshida as Famine, Gazer as War, and of course, Remy LeBeau as Death. So Apocalypse was one pestilence short. He offers her like immense powers and all if she agrees to become Pestilence and serve it. The woman initially refused the offer, but then power tempted her and corrupted her mind, after which she agreed to Apocalypse's offer. Of course, the dude mind-wiped her and she became Pestilence, whose identity was actually revealed in X-Men Volume 2, issue number 186, if I'm not wrong. Anyway, as Pestilence, her objective was to spread as much deadly disease as she could, so she first goes to the World Health Organization in an attempt to create a metaplague. She ingests all the viruses they had in their inventory, but it doesn't quite end well for her. You see, during the climactic battle between the forces of Apocalypse and the combined might of the Avengers and the X-Men, Wolverine learns that Pestilence was actually Lorna, but she was choking and was about to die, thanks to all those viruses she'd ingested. Fortunately for her, Havoc managed to resuscitate her and Lorna lived. In fact, she also received a serum that protected her from the diseases she had willingly infected herself with. After this, Famine and Death, aka Shiro and Remy, came to collect her, but she refused to go with them, and decided to fight for the good side, having learned her lesson full well. In the TV show, Polaris might have been projected as an impulsive mutant, and I'm assuming that this trait might lead her to become a horseman for En Sabanur. There'll be more progress on Onslaught. So the whole thing with Danger in the 6th episode started because of the good professor's obsession with the recent death of his best friend and confidant, and across the 6th episode, it became very clear that Charles harbors a bit of Magneto's psyche within his mind, and he wants to use these remnants of Magneto to bring him back. Additionally, he later taps into all of Magneto's memories to help Polaris see who she really is, but he does so through letting Polaris get to know her father, really get to know him. During this scene, Polaris tells Charles that she could feel Magneto, and he says that he too could feel him. This is proof that Magneto lives inside Xavier's mind, and this is the part that will go on to become Onslaught later on. I mean, the show's been teasing Onslaught for a while now, and it would be awesome to see some progress on that front. For the uninitiated, Onslaught is basically the entity born in Charles' mind, but he's the amalgamation of both Magneto and the Professor's worst impulses and negativities like hate, anger, etc. In fact, I feel that Apocalypse himself might be destroyed only through the intervention of Onslaught, because neither Magneto nor the Professor can defeat Apocalypse by themselves, but their combined might just do the trick. And once that's done, Onslaught himself becomes the primary villain of Season 3 of X-Men 97.
The Justice Department will challenge X-Corp's plans.
X-Factor will get more annoying. Valerie Cooper has made her intentions about going after Professor X and his X-Corp very public, which means that there will be an all-out war between X-Factor and X-Corp, although there's a possibility that this fight remains more legal than physical. I mean, she has no jurisdiction in Genosha, and the X-Men will use this as well as they can. However, I'm kind of surprised by the portrayal of X-Factor in the cartoon. I mean, I don't remember those guys to be all bad or as bad as they are in the animated show. Or do you think I'm making a mistake somewhere and remembering things differently from how they actually happen? I don't know, let me know in the comments. Gambit as the Horseman of Death will wreak havoc. Clearly, Gambit is going to unleash his true power now. He's been resurrected by our guy Apocalypse after promising us in the last episode that he would come and hurt the X-Men when they were at their most vulnerable, and that is the 90s. And the dude kept his promise. Plus, a post-credits scene in the previous season already confirmed that Apocalypse was going to use Gambit as a pawn. But the real question is, how much control will Remy allow En Sabanur to have over it? You see in the comics, Gambit says that he was both Remy and Death, and that he managed to retain some memories of his former self as Remy, and even loved Rogue, although it's a completely different thing that he later tries to murder Rogue. I think the same would happen here. Like, he won't entirely turn evil, and that's how he'd be able to fight Apocalypse's control over it. Rogue didn't have any role to play in the 6th episode, and I'm not so sure if she'll appear in the 7th one either. But what I'm certainly sure of is that she's going to make an appearance in the 8th one, which is titled The Dead Man's Hand. Needless to say, the dead man in the title is a reference to Remy. Like, I'm nearly sure about that. Well, folks, that's all for this one. If you think I missed something important, please feel free to mention it in the comments. It'll only help me improve for my future videos. And yeah, if you like this one, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as well as ringing that notification bell. Those 3 small clicks from you help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. Stay safe and have a great day. And as always, stay marvelous.